How much overlist did this house sell for? Take a look at this home. It's a nice home in Northwest Raleigh. It has 4 bedrooms, 3,200 square feet, and over an acre lot. Around March 3rd, it went active in the Triangle MLS for $574,000, which for around here and for a house like this is a perfectly normal list price. And the final sale price? $676,000. That's $102,000 over list price, or a 17% premium. Does that seem like a lot to you? Just a year ago, even 6 months ago, that would have been absurd here. Today, offers significantly over list price are the norm. This is just one example, and there are others like this, but not every home sells this much over list. I'll give you a bigger overall picture a little later in the video, but first let's talk about why this is happening. Is this a bubble? Did the buyers of that house overpay, or did they actually get a deal? Did they go too far, or did they get into the market when the getting was good? To really understand this, we need to take a look at something bigger than just the housing market. We need to look at the tech industry in Raleigh and how it's affecting real estate. Understanding the growing role of tech in Raleigh just might help us understand where the real estate market is going in the future. By the end of this video, I think you'll have a good idea of whether that price was a good deal or not. But first, let's look at a recent report from LendingTree about the top 3 most competitive markets in the US. This is really going to help us understand why that house could sell for $100,000 over list. This article was published by LendingTree last week. They looked at the top 50 metro areas in the United States, searching for which markets had the most competitive buyers. They wanted to know where the best qualified buyers were purchasing their homes. They looked at 3 metrics: down payment percentage, credit score, and how much shopping the buyer did for their mortgage. This is important because the better qualified a buyer is, the more competitive an offer they can make. And the presence of more highly qualified buyers can significantly impact a housing market. The top 2 spots went to San Jose, California and San Francisco, California. Yes, they're technically 2 different markets, but to all of us living outside of Silicon Valley, they're more or less the same market. It's the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, home to Apple, Facebook, Google, and Stanford University. In these 2 areas, more than 80% of home buyers had credit scores over 720, and buyers' average down payments were between 21 and 23%. In Santa Clara County, home to San Jose and Silicon Valley, the median sale price for homes in the first quarter of 2021 was $1.49 million, up 13% from the same time last year. Now, around here in Raleigh, $1.5 million for a home definitely gets you a luxury property, but in Santa Clara, a home isn't going to be considered luxury until it passes the $3 million mark, roughly twice the median price. This is important to understand when we get to the number 3 metro area with the most competitive buyers, and that market is North Carolina's Triangle. Little old Raleigh comes in 3rd in LendingTree's list, surpassing Portland, San Diego, LA, Boston, and New York. In Raleigh, the average down payment was over 20%, and over 70% of buyers were holding credit scores over 720. But while those numbers aren't too far off the California top numbers, our median home prices are way off the California prices. The median home price of a house in Raleigh in March this year was only $334,000, an increase of 10% over last year. Around here, twice the median price does get you into homes that can be considered high-end, and passing the $1 million mark on a home definitely gets a luxury by almost any standard, excluding what Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg might consider luxury. So, Raleigh homebuyers are coming into the market extremely well qualified to purchase, which means that they have the financial means to drive up home prices. But so what? Having the means to pay more for a home doesn't necessarily mean that they will pay more. None of us want to pay more for a house. We all want to pay less. But the demand for housing relative to supply, combined with this buyer pool of well-qualified buyers, is what is causing the housing price increases. It just happens that the increased demand is coming from purchasers who have the means to make very competitive offers. But why are these well-qualified buyers in the Raleigh market at all? The answer, of course, is complicated, and I won't pretend to understand how all these pieces fit together, but it isn't difficult to see some rationale in the big picture. North Carolina in general is just a nice place to live. We might not have the mild climate of many parts of California, but we don't have the winters of the Northeast or the Midwest. We've got easy access to both coastal and mountain recreation, and we have a good combination of affordability and amenities when compared with many other regions of the country. If you're not convinced that North Carolina is just a great place to live, I'll link to my recent video, 10 Reasons I Love North Carolina, at the end of this video. But one of the reasons that these well-qualified buyers are flocking to Raleigh is the tech industry. industry. One report looked at the top 12 spots for tech startups outside of Silicon Valley. Granted, this report is 6 years old, but the age of this report actually helps us understand why Raleigh is seeing the kind of growth that it is today. They looked at 5 metrics: local innovation, access to capital, access to educated workers, the strength of the local tech startup scene, and local wages. Raleigh came in first on this list, surpassing Austin, Denver, Salt Lake City, San Diego, even Seattle and Portland. 2 years ago, Indeed.com released a report on where the tech jobs were in the U.S. Not surprisingly, the traditional tech hubs of San Jose, San Francisco, and Seattle, along with Huntsville, Alabama, and the D.C. metro area, had the highest overall percentage of tech-related job postings. San Jose and Austin saw the largest increase in percentage of tech-related job postings, but coming in fourth on their list of the increased share of tech jobs nationwide was, once again, little old Raleigh, the smallest of the major metro areas in the rankings. The report told us in more diversified tech markets such as Austin and Raleigh, employers have an advantage because more job seekers are competing for each slot. What this is telling employers is that Raleigh is a good place to open a business. Combine the local talent with a lower cost of living than the other major tech hubs, and there's good reason to grow your business in Raleigh. And that lower cost of living and the amenities that Raleigh can provide also means that it's a great place to relocate to if you can land a tech job here, or if you can now work remotely. In 2020, the commercial real estate services firm CBRE ranked Raleigh as number 10 on its list for tech talent. Listen to what they had to say about Raleigh.
And delighted to talk about Raleigh-Durham, which is the number 10 ranked region in North America for 2020. And we see the area being even more favorable than areas like San Francisco and New York in terms of the ability to hire high quality people at relatively low cost. The most important reason why we like the Raleigh-Durham region is that notwithstanding how many graduates it creates, it is a net brain drain city, meaning that a lot of them just leave, which means it has all of this pent up growth for the future. So Raleigh-Durham not only has a great tech talent market today, but it has an even greater future if it can keep many of its graduates in the market, which it will, with high quality employers coming in, great jobs, and a great live, work, play environment. Raleigh-Durham, number 10 in CBRE's 2020 Tech Talent Survey, and mark my words, we'll get higher in the years to come.
So Raleigh has the resources and the talent to attract new businesses to the area, which is what is happening. In the 2019 and 20 year, Wake County and Raleigh reported over $400 million in announced capital investments, with tech-related industries accounting for about 87% of those commitments. Bandwidth and Microsoft were the two biggest investors in the area, together accounting for over $147 million in capital investment in Wake County. In short, it's happening. Raleigh is continuing to fulfill the predictions to be a growing tech hub, and while it's no threat to dethrone the larger tech hubs, there's no reason to believe that its growth has peaked, and every reason to believe that it will continue its rise in the tech industry. This is an important point when we come to ask whether that house at the beginning of this video was a good deal for the buyers. So let's talk about those buyers and look at the actual numbers from the early spring market here in Raleigh. The Triangle area housing market is not a uniform market. Like every other metro area, there are areas that are more and less competitive. Varying levels of amenities and proximity to major employers allow for median prices to fluctuate across the market. For our purposes today, we're going to look at the town of Cary. It's centrally located, famous for its parks, greenways, and city amenities, and is generally speaking the most competitive of the Triangle markets. If you want to learn about some less competitive markets where it might be a little bit easier to get a home in the Triangle, check out this video here. But now let's look at how much over list a typical home sells for in Cary. As of today, and remember these numbers can change on a daily basis, there are only 88 active listings in Cary, ranging in price from $199,000 for this rehab teardown to $2.5 million for this new pre-sale, with the median sitting at $460,000. In the last month, 230 homes sold in Cary with a median list price of $458,000 and a median sale price of $474,000, which is about 3% over list price. But this average doesn't tell us the whole story, because averages mean that some were higher and some were lower. In fact, 84 of the 230 properties that sold in the last 30 days sold at more than a 3% premium over the list price. 44 of the 230 sold below list price. So what makes a property sell above list or below list? I can tell you just from experience that it's how well the property was prepared for market and marketed. How good the photos were, what kinds of quality the features and upgrades were, and how well done any remodels were. Just as an example, this property with almost 3,800 square feet sat on the market for 85 days and sold at a $10,000 discount from its original $685,000 list price. I showed this home when it was listed, and the lighting was bad, the finishes were cheap, and it just showed poorly compared to other homes of the same price. My buyers passed on it, so did many others. This one, with almost 400 less square feet, sold in 4 4 days for $670,000, but it was listed at $624,000. That's $45,000 over asking price. This home in Lockmere was listed at $575,000, but sold for $625,000, $50,000 over asking. Can you see the difference in the pictures between that discounted home and these two? The kitchens are nicer. They have nice features like screen porches and fireplaces. They're just nicer homes. Very few buyers are willing to take on homes that need remodeling right now, and that's generally the difference in homes that are competitive or not. This is what we know. In Cary, about 3 times as many homes are selling over list price than those that are selling under list price. Discounted homes generally have some observable flaw, and about half of the homes that sold over list are selling for more than the average 3% over list, and there were quite a few that sold for 15 to 20% over list. So what do you think? Did those buyers who paid $100,000 over list price overpay, or did they do what they needed to do to get into the market early? Is Raleigh the next boomtown? Tell me what you think in the comments. Here's that video that I mentioned earlier about why I love living in North Carolina. I think you'll enjoy it.